Hokage Starting from the Instant Full Level, Chapter 701 to 720. Chapter 701, Son of the Devil. It's just one of the means by which they maintain the order of the game in this world. The Judiciary Tower was destroyed, and it did not lose much to their power. A monk, if there is no candidate for the time being, let that guy replace him. With long white beard, silver hair and a suit, also agreed. Faced with this proposal, the remaining 3 people raised their brows when they were about to express their position. Grumpy. The voice of the phone bug rang again. A monk frowned and said, "It's that guy from the Warring States period, what's wrong with him?" HMPH, no matter what he is, if he is going to intercede with 9, he will just hang up the phone bug. Il snorted coldly. Our face, it's not. That group of trash's little lives can be compared. Il, you are right. Both with blonde hair and a face with a Chinese character also echoed, and said after a pause, "However, the guy in the Warring States period is so urgent, let's get in touch first and see what he has to say." Facing Bolt's proposal, a monk nodded silently and connected the phone bug. "I am a monk. If there is anything in the Warring States period, you are so anxious to contact us. If it is to plead with 9, I think you have this kind of intention. You should first think about how to bring Escanor back to meet us as soon as possible." A monk answered the phone bug and responded indifferently. "Remember, your duty is only to carry out our orders. If there is nothing to do, then hang up the phone bug. We have other things that need to be discussed." After letting go of this official scolding, a monk casually planned to hang up the phone bug. However, the words that fell in his ear just as his hand was half stretched out, were like thunder, shaking everyone's nerves. "Monk, the big thing is bad. If Escanor came for Nico Robin, he dared to attack Fashima and returned empty-handed, I'm afraid he would also attack the Holy Land Mary Joa. This time escorting Nicole Robin, who is it? Hurry up and contact him to prevent Nicole Robin from being hijacked by Escanor." The hurried voices echoed in the huge conference hall. Seeing that they were not waiting for their position, the phone bug hung up. This feeling makes them have a feeling of being slapped in the face. I called back and asked about the 5 old stars who were the biggest rulers behind the world's official government, but I couldn't help myself. A monk, the Warring States said that Escanor may attack the Holy Land Mary Joa, who is responsible for escorting this time. Il couldn't help but ask first. Faced with this kind of problem, the monk who is in charge of ruling this year has undoubtedly become the most eye-catching existence. Like Pandane in 0 inches. Sanctuary Mary Joa Estuary. A huge battleship quickly docked. Hundreds of navies first landed on the pier from the ship and waited in formation on both sides. The shore, there were already 3 Tianlong people wearing transparent hoods, waiting here. "Saint Henry, I didn't expect that you would come here to wait for a mere clerk." A burly Tianlong man with a snotty nose spoke first. Saint Henry, who was standing beside him, with his face full of fat and trembling, said with an excited smile, "Saint Ursule, you are not here for this slave. Those foolish fellows don't even pay attention to this precious slave, if they bring this so-called son of the devil back, no matter what. Either as material for gladiatorial combat, or as a dog to ride. I don't think. Go, you are always in the spotlight." Having said that, Saint Henry hurriedly looked at the naval vessel in charge of escorting. At the moment when his eyes fell, a pretty figure in a black leather jacket with slightly staggered footsteps appeared in front of everyone's eyes. "Oh, the devil's son, but women still look good." Rest has not spoken. The thin, horse-faced Saint Helsing, his eyes can't help but light up, his face is excited and urgent. However, this expression soon attracted Saint Henry and Saint Ursule, contempt. "Hell's saint, you don't want to have activities with these lowly people again. That is an insult to our Tianlong people, our noble blood. In the Holy Land of Mary Joa, there are dragon people who have lived and reproduced for more than 800 years. All along, they have claimed to be their creators. Because they think they are noble and superior to ordinary people, they even think that breathing air is a shame for inferior people. In their eyes, except for the Tianlong people, all other races are inferior. With these inferior people will only insult and bring down their noble blood. In the system of Tianlong people, it is a kind of joke. Of course, jokes are just jokes, as a celestial dragon who thinks his status is superior. Disregard other people's opinions. Some Tianlong people still like to be with the scorpion. Chapter 702, Dragon's Game. Hell's Street is no doubt one of them. Saint Henry, shut up, don't forget that in the gladiatorial match, you owe me 1 billion Baileys, and you haven't paid it back. Helsing said through gritted teeth. If you can't grow ivory from your mouth, the giant behind me will directly shred the scorpion you brought this time. Let you in tomorrow's gladiatorial fight, there is no one who can take out your hand. Having said that, Saint Hells turned back and kicked behind him, a giant kick that was 10 meters tall, burly, wearing an explosive collar. Stupid giant, still don't call me. The giant regained his senses in the absence of thought, as if he had already seen this kind of order. He stretched his arms, his muscles tensed like a rock, and let out a roar like a wild beast. Roar. Feeling the sound, Saint Henry's face turned ashen, and he gritted his teeth. Bastard Saint Hells, I will soon find a giant who also knows how to be armed and domineering, and tear your waist to pieces. I owe you 1 billion Baileys, but I won't give you this time. Abandoning these words, everyone's eyes were locked on Nico Robin, who fell barefoot on the pier. And just behind her, there is also Spandam, carved out of the same mold. 20 years ago, he participated in the demon-slaying order, destroyed O'Hara, and was promoted to 0 by Spandane. This time, the son of the devil, who had been fleeing for 20 years, fell into the hands of Fa Dao. In order to ensure that the credit would not be stolen, Spandam directly contacted his father Spandane. This can be said to be fat and water. When I think of it, I just need to bring Nico Robin back to the Holy Land Mary Joa. Sooner together, they will be able to step up and rise again. For Spandane, that was a big joy. Nicole Robin, why don't you go? Spandane frowned when he saw Nico Robin, who had suddenly stopped moving forward, and then said with a playful smile. You must be surprised. As the devil's son who had been on the run for 20 years and was offered a reward of 80 million Baileys by the world's official government, after being brought into the Holy Land Mary Joa, he was not interrogated and tortured to extract a confession, but instead waited for 3 Tianlong adults. Looking at Nico Robin, who was being told, Spandane clapped the whip in his hand, and said with a louder laughter, Do you really think that when you are brought into the Holy Land Mary Joa, will you see you in person? For a sinner like you, it's not to be sent to the superintendent of the city. Once you reach the Holy Land Mary Joa, you can only be sent to the life of a slave. As for these, Lord Tianlong, what will I do to you, then I don't know. You've run away for 20 years, Maryjoya, don't even think about running away unless a lunatic, otherwise, even pirates wouldn't dare to set foot there, knowing that there is a dead end. This is the game of the dragons. These words, Spandane hurriedly made a flattering gesture and walked towards the Holy Trinity of Hendry. 3 lords, she is this time, Nico Robin, the son of the devil you ordered. Spandane rubbed his hands together and laughed. However, there is only one prisoner, how can the 3 adults be divided? How to divide Hendry Saint 3 people can't help but startled. As Tianlong people, each has his own arrogance. Jokifpingbai handed over the scorpion he had seen. Matter where your face is, you can't put it down. To take it with money, I think it is obviously unfair to you, Saint Hendry, after all, everyone knows that you are poor. Hull's Saint took the lead and said with a wretched smile. Then let's use force to snatch it. You, Saint Hendry suddenly became angry. However, this is no way. He still owes Hull's Saint billion Bailey, and the time for the payment of the heavenly gold has not yet come. Before the pocket money arrived in the account, he really had no choice but to wrestle with other people over money. Looking at Saint Henry, who was speechless for a while, Saint Helsing looked at Saint Ursel, who was burly, and said with a big smile, "Since there is no opinion, then this slave belongs to me. Go!" Roar! The giant standing behind Saint Helsing roared up to the sky, strode down, and rushed straight towards Nico Robin. Wherever they passed along the way, some Navy soldiers couldn't dodge, and were even kicked flying in the face. He fell heavily and fell dozens of meters away, and vomited blood directly. Facing such a ferocious scene, the rear admiral who led the team couldn't help but sank. He was about to draw out the saber in his hand, intending to shoot. However, he was quickly stopped by Spandane, a detective. "You don't plan to offend the dragon people in the Holy Land, Mary Joa, that's a capital crime. Once you make a move, no matter what is the result, waiting for you, and even the other Navy ships, it is a dead end. If you want to blame it, your Navy did not respond in time." Voice made Karuda, who was full of blonde hair, clench the katana in his hand tightly. He didn't think of it at all, under the escort of hard work. There were no casualties along the way, but they were attacked by Tianlong people in Mary Joa, known as the safest holy place in the whole world. Chapter 703. Holy Land, Mary Joa encounters invaders. Looking at the giant striding towards Nico Robin like a shooting star, he took out a huge mace with his backhand, tightened his wrist muscles, and suddenly exerted force like a windmill, sweeping away all around. The violent scene directly shook Kadaru's nerves. "Hurry up and dodge, this guy deliberately attacked our navy." Kadaru roared. If it was said that the giant was unintentional at the beginning, then now it is unintentionally holding the feathers of the Tianlong people as an arrow. The huge mace danced, causing a huge sonic boom. The surrounding Navy soldiers hurriedly dodge. However, due to being on the dock, there are obviously not many places to dodge. Only thing he can do is to watch the mace fall in front of his eyes. You can only jump into the sea and dodge. However, the entrance of the Holy Land, Mary Joa, has already been stocked with countless sea kings and transformed into a natural defense line. If there is no special means, once it falls into the water, let alone a person, even ships will be torn apart. For a time, looking at the runaway giant, let alone a naval soldier, even Nico Robin's face couldn't help but reveal a self-deprecating pale smile. "I thought that by virtue of the identity of the only survivor of Olaha, after meeting the 5 old stars, I had the qualifications to negotiate. Never occurred to me that he would be beaten directly to act as the slave of the Tianlong people. If possible, Nico Robin would prefer to die in the first place." Messy thoughts flashed in Nico Robin's mind. And he also passed that one and defeated the figure of Crocodile, the sand crocodile. If from the beginning, bet on the skeleton demon. After the trail leaked, there was no thought of escaping without authorization. Wouldn't it fall to this point? Now being escorted to the Holy Land, Mary Joa, in Nico Robin's eyes, everything has become a foregone conclusion. Only extravagant hope is that the roaring mace in front of him can directly smash him to death. The awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air shrouded the huge pier. The giant mace danced by the giant's own hands, brought up the mighty momentum that completely overshadowed all the cheers of the Tianlong people. What's more, the giant made such a huge move, no doubt to please the Tianlong people. Who couldn't avoid it along the way. He made a heavy hand. In the eyes of the giant, this kind of crazy behavior can not only brighten the sky, but also vent the grievances in the heart. It is more able to make himself a good dog, the dog of the Tianlong people. Thinking of this, the giant's eyes instantly locked on Nico Robin's side. Navy soldier. Without any bells and whistles, the giant mace swung in his hand, with all his strength, slashed downwards. The violent blow made Kadaru's complexion change dramatically, and he knew clearly that if this blow fell, that awaits the 3 sailors, and there is only one dead end. The only thing that can be done is to stop it. Boom! The thunder-like tearing sound of the air suddenly sounded in the sky above the sky. The huge momentum instantly tensed everyone's nerves. Not waiting for them to react. A body like an iron tower slammed down on the giant without any bias. Bang! The huge impact was too hard for the giants to bear. Before he could come back to his senses, he was a huge body of 12 or 3 meters. In an instant, he was bent over and smashed heavily on the pier. Reverberation of the dull collision, the entire pier shook violently. The sturdy slate also shattered with a sound. The wind and waves that set off made everyone present, the pupils shrank suddenly. Waiting to see clearly what was falling from the sky, the people present couldn't help but be stunned. This is a man who fell from the sky and was able to smash a giant 12 to 3 meters high on the ground. Most important thing is what height did he fall from? He not only smashed the giant to the ground, but also patted the dust on his body casually, looked around, and finally his eyes fell on Nico Robin. You are indeed here, and I am here to take you away. Long Yu has already entered Escanor's character template. These words fell, thousands of waves were instantly aroused. Originally, they were still shocked by the dragon feather falling from the sky. However, now that I have come back to my senses, I suddenly remembered. This is the Holy Land Mary Joa. Suddenly a man fell from the sky and threatened to come to find Nico Robin. Is this an intruder? The Holy Land Mary Joa encountered an intruder. This is how many years I haven't encountered it. This is Escanor with a reward of 300 million. Kadalu was the first to see the clue and pulled out the samurai sword from his waist with his backhand. Step out. Kadaru, as a rear admiral, is also proficient in 6 styles. With the sound of heavy footsteps, the whole person disappeared like a ghost out of thin air. Appeared again, already behind Long Yu. The samurai sword in his hand slashed towards the back of Long Yu's neck with an awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves, and even Nico Robin's pupils shrank. She was about to speak and then stopped, and was about to say a reminder. Chapter 704, I like this welcome way. However, the words that came to his mouth were obviously swallowed back into his stomach. She eagerly wanted to see how this guy of unknown origin would respond to the attack of Rear Admiral Kadaru. Only by doing so can Nico Robin deduce whether Escanor is the lingering figure in her memory. When the crisp metal collision sound resounded suddenly, and the slashing wind swept through. Under the splash of sparks, the huge recoil force caused a stinging pain from Kadaru's tiger's mouth. Looking in front of him, that muscle bulged, like a neck made of steel. Under his full blow, only a faint white trace was left behind. This huge gap made Kadaru stunned. The Escanor in front of him didn't even use his armament and domineering, and he couldn't break the defense. Is his knife too dull, or the other party's skin is too thick? I like your welcome way. Escanor turned his head slowly and said. Kadaru woke up abruptly, and in this situation where the enemy's position was at odds with himself, he was distracted. That was a fatal mistake. Thinking of this, Kadaru stomped on the ground with both feet, intending to continue to shave to distance himself first. Bang! A thunderous stomping sound suddenly sounded. Watching Long Yu's stampede behavior like a retreat. That Kadaru's pupils shrank, an iron tower-like figure appeared in front of him. 5 fingers clenched suddenly, and the huge fist smashed out with a heavy punch. Iron block. Kadaru roared loudly. As a major general, you must at least be proficient in the 6 types of naval death. Before learning to be domineering with armed sex, shaving, moon steps, and iron blocks are the most basic means. However, not long ago, Kadaru awakened even his armed arrogance. The dark, ink-like armament color is domineering, quickly covering the muscles behind the actual iron blocks and opening. The next moment, the heavy fist fell with a bang. Bang! Huge power, vented like a frenzy. The round eyes of Kadaru, it flew out like a cannonball. At this moment, he had a feeling of being hit head-on by a sea king. The double defense that was mentioned was torn apart like a piece of paper at this moment. An afterimage flew away in front of Spandane, eyes. Looking at the dignified rear admiral, he couldn't even take a punch, and he threw it dozens of meters and smashed heavily on a warship. In the heavy hull, a huge hole was smashed out. He couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. If this sand. A bag-like fist slammed on him. Spandane couldn't believe that his small body could handle it. "Why are you here?" Nico Robin said with a stunned expression, looking at the thick back that stood in front of him and turned into an iron tower. Nico Robin had already guessed who he was. As expected of Robin, I guessed it so quickly. Long Yu turned back and reached for her hand, rubbed her slowly on Robin's head. This familiar action and feeling made Robin hold back the hot tears in his eyes, and the embankment burst instantly. At this moment, Robin burst into tears like a helpless child. After 20 years of fleeing, she once thought about what would happen if she fell into the hands of the Navy and even the world's official government. I also thought about whether I would be freed if I died before I was caught. In the end, I also personally experience the current hesitation and helplessness, and can only face the wanton trampling of Tianlong people's playthings. However, it never occurred to me that under this kind of dragon pond and tiger den, there are people who fell from the sky for themselves and came to the rescue. Okay, you can leave soon. Long Yu rubbed Nico Robin's head again and looked at Spandane and the others. Can we discuss? If Quan Dang hasn't met, let me take her away. The small voices, at this moment, seemed to be filled with magical sounds, echoing in the sky in all directions. Looking at this man who dared to rush into the Holy Land Mary Joa, he also threatened to let them watch Nico Robin be taken away. This request is simply insane. At least, in Spandane's eyes, this is the first time I've heard of it. Roar. A thunderous roar suddenly sounded. Who was smashed to the ground, stood up directly. The huge mace in his hand suddenly clenched tightly, and with a stern sound of breaking the air, he slashed down towards Long Yuli. Little devil, if you dare to make this giant embarrassed in public, then die for me. The moment the voice fell, the giant mace that was swung up, with the might of Wan Jun, came to Long Yu in an instant. Bang! Huge impact, vented out with a hurricane. Looking at the huge mace, it was directly lifted with one hand. The people present couldn't help grunting and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Even giants are no exception. It seems, you mean, can't keep one eye closed. Long Yu suddenly raised his head. The 5 fingers of the left hand clenched suddenly. Chapter 705, Arrogant. The huge mace was crushed to pieces. Under the splatter of debris, Long Yu raised his right hand in the air, and vomited out the simple 4 characters. Axe Rita. An inexplicable scene, which makes people look stagnant. The next moment, before everyone could react, a golden light with a stern sound of breaking through the sky swept across the sky in the distance. Bang! The dull collision sound resounded suddenly. A golden axe slammed into Long Yu's hand. The huge impact force made the thick floor underfoot also shatter. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. However, before they could react, the divine axe Rita in Long Yu's right hand slashed down towards the giant who was blocking him. Bang! An axe fell, and the air seemed to be torn apart. A giant vacuum slash of more than 10 meters was instantly condensed. At such a close distance, the giants have nowhere to hide. Only thing he could do was raise his hands hastily. PFF'd. The blood splashed and the slashing slashes passed through the huge body of the giant in an instant, and rolled away towards the warship that was moored at the port and was responsible for escorting. It was accompanied by a low explosion. The tens of meters of warships, together with giants, were cut in 2 pieces with one axe. Bang! The 12-3-meter giant, both of its bodies turned directly into the sea. Rush of blood, the whole sea surface was dyed red. And the warship that broke into 2 pieces sank directly into the sea. The violent blow shook everyone's nerves. Looking at the red blood on the ground, Spandane couldn't move a little. Is anyone else going to stop me? Long Yu slammed the divine axe Rita on the shoulders, and looked around slowly. If not, then let's go. These words, Long Yu grabbed Robin's hand, turned around and planned to leave. However, just as the footsteps started, an unexpected sound rang out. You're so strong, you can cut an axe into 2 halves, I've decided to let you be my slave. Saint Henry walked out of the crowd with a face full of excitement. If you are asked to fight with Saints of Firth and their scorpions, you will definitely win a big victory, and I will be the champion of the arena. Own eyes, Long Yu slaughtered Saint Helsing, the most powerful giant, with an axe. Saint Henry knew clearly that the man in front of him was very strong. At least, it is much stronger than the scorpion they encountered in the arena of Holy Land Mary Joa. However, in the face of Saint Henry, this is a matter of course. Many present people couldn't help shivering. Especially the naval soldiers stationed, the only thought flashed in their minds. Are all Tianlong people so idiots? Saint Henry, this slave, but I see, he killed my giant, so he can only be my slave. Saint Hells also came back to his senses and shouted in a hurry. Burly celestial dragon who seldom speaks on the side, Yusul Saint is full of excitement, and wants to open his mouth to fight. In their usual thinking, as long as they see something, it belongs to them. However, in the face of the 3 celestial dragons who were arrogant, the arrogant Escanor was revealed in his bones. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes turned and locked on Long Yu's body. There was an inexplicable urgency on his face. They desperately wanted to know, in the face of the rude demands of the dragons, what will be the reaction of this arrogant person in front of him? Sorry, do you want to prevent me from leaving too? Long Yu's stride stopped in mid-air. Looking back at the 3 Tianlong people, he said slowly. Then go to hell. A simple 4-character sputtered out. At this moment, it was like thunder, shaking everyone's nerves. Without any bells and whistles, Long Yu's divine axe, Rita, clenched tightly in his right hand, turned towards the 3 celestial dragons, with an axe in the air. Bang! The air was squeezed out again. Of more than 10 meters was instantly condensed out of thin air. With a rolling gesture, he attacked the Tianlong people in the air. The violent scene made everyone's pupils shrink suddenly. They already knew that Escanor was crazy enough. However, I never imagined that the madman in front of him would become mad. Even the heavenly dragons were cut off. Watching the rapid enlargement in the pupils, there was a precedent for the giant being beheaded. Long time, the 3 saints of Henry, who were not afraid of the sky and earth, finally panicked. They didn't expect that, as Tianlong people, they would be under the holy land of Mary Joa that belonged to them. There are people who are more horizontal than them. Om! The sound of the air shaking, echoed without warning. The dazzling golden light swooped down in the first step, and collided with the slash that rolled in the face. Boom! The unrelenting attacks collided with each other. The moment when the dazzling golden light rose to the sky, the violent air wave rolled back with a rolling gesture. The 3 heavenly dragons who were a little closer, and even Spandane were directly thrown out. Looking at the sand and dust rising from the sky, the tall figure gradually became clear. Chapter 706, 9 Generations Single Biography. Nico Robin's expression changed suddenly. After Long Yu smashed the divine axe Rita on the ground, he slowly opened his mouth again. I thought the Admiral of the Navy could watch the Tianlong people being chopped and remain indifferent. It seems that it takes a little more effort to get out of this broken place. The small voice made the faces of the Navy soldiers in the field look happy. Even climbed up on the ground, the embarrassed Spandane couldn't help shouting in a hurry, Kazuna, you came just in time. That guy not only planned to take Nico Robin away, but also attacked 3 heavenly dragons. You must not let him leave alive. Kill him for me. Saint Henry got up on the ground and growled hysterically. The remaining 2 heavenly dragons also roared. That hatred and murderous appearance was destroyed by their crotch, which was already soaked with excrement and urine, and filled with an indescribable smell. faced with this embodiment of wandering at the gates of life and death. As people from Tianlong people, when have they ever thought about it? They will one day realize it in person. Yo-yo, what a terrible guy. I didn't expect that the Warring States Marshal really guessed it right. Trouser pockets in his pockets, the yellow monkey walked out in the dust with his 8-legged legs. Originally, I planned to give you a sneak peek when you were running away, so that I could save a lot of trouble. I didn't expect that you were so arrogant and domineering that you discovered me in advance. Having said that, Kizaru patted the dust on his body, and said with a wretched smile. However, for the sake of Nico Robin, the son of the devil, you invaded the island of Fa, raised the Judiciary Tower, and now you are running to the Holy Land Mary Joa. Under such vicious deeds, if I let you leave, let alone the Warring States period. Marshal, even the 5 old stars will blame me. Little brother, why didn't you just take it easy? I'll save you a little effort, and you'll be able to avoid a little skin trauma. I know a big secret. I heard that the closer you are to noon, the stronger your strength will be. This is really a strange fruit ability. I temporarily call it the sun fruit. It's a pity, it's almost dusk now. Without the power of the sun, can you still be arrogant and arrogant? The slightly elusive voice echoed in the ears of everyone on the pier, not to mention the naval soldiers stationed there, even Nicole Spandine and others. Their expressions changed dramatically. Especially Spandine. He never imagined that the madman in front of him even made the island of France bigger before he ran to the Holy Land Marijoya to go wild. Kazuna, how is my son Spandam? Is he safe? Spandane spoke hastily. This is their 9th generation single pass. As a relative of the Tianlong people, let alone Spandam, even Spandane has only 10 Dao strength. Compared with his precious son, he is only a little taller. Right now, the opponent even raised the fata directly to the ground. Then what happened to his son? You said that trash already. Kazuna crooked his mouth, rubbed his chin and thought. Of the Navy are also considered to be on the same front. The status of Spandam, the supreme commander of the French island, is almost the same as that of the Admiral Sengoku. However, it really has to be discussed who is more worthy of admiration. In this world where strength is respected, the Warring States period is obviously worthy of its name. As for Spandam, he climbed up to the commander's position because of his relationship. Even 9 of his direct subordinates are arrogant, let alone people outside. Dead. Spandane was stunned. He never imagined that he would keep his son in the island of Faisal, which would not be broken for 800 years, like a tortoise shell. There will be times when you will lose your life. I thought of it, the 9th generation single pass was cut off on my own handle. A look of grimness flashed across Spandane's face, and he roared sternly. Kazuna, kill him for me, as long as you kill him, I'm willing to promise anything. Don't worry, if you let him slip away under my nose, I won't be able to explain it. And said with a wretched smile, Brother Escanor, it's almost evening, your strength is greatly reduced, you plan to obediently capture you, and let me beat you to half dead, and then take you with you. Back to the Navy headquarters. Small voices echoed on the pier. Facing the words that came from the mouth of the General Kizaru, although it was frivolous. However, it is undoubtedly much stronger than Spandane's ruthless remarks. The face of this tense atmosphere, the eyes of the naval soldiers stationed around them all turned and locked on Long Yu's body. They eagerly wanted to see what confidence this arrogant man would have in the face of the general who was hailed as the most powerful general in the Navy headquarters. You mean, have I become weaker? And looked back at Kizaru. Chapter 707, Full-Body Armed Color Domineering. The next moment, in front of everyone's eyes, he took a step forward. Bang! The huge pier suddenly shook. Where Long Yu landed, the thick floor shattered. A ghostly figure, 1 step ahead, appeared in front of Kizaru. Of tens of meters seemed to shrink into an inch at this moment. The jet-black armament color is domineering, quickly wrapping around the divine axe Rita. Entanglement of the Sakura, the feeling of ferocity and unparalleled strength increased by a few points. Facing the general of the Yellow Monkey, Long Yu's deep-rooted arrogance, without any hesitation. He picked up the axe and slammed it down. Yilagung Luo Liang Tiger. Roar. An axe out. The torn air, like a tiger roaring, shakes the hills. The huge air pressure and domineering mixed together, with a posture like 1,000 fists, pressing down. The violent scene made Kizaru's expression change suddenly, and he didn't think of it at all. Long Yu didn't agree with a word, and suddenly shot. Faced with this kind of attack, he had the idea of running away. However, when he thought that there was still a group of trash standing behind him, the only thing he could do was to bite the bullet and fight. Tiankong Cloud Sword. With a pull of both hands, endless golden light bloomed, instantly condensed into a lightsaber, and blocked towards the divine axe Rita who was slashing down. Boom! At the moment of starting, a powerful collision exploded like thunder. Axe fell, with an explosive force like 1,000 fists, making Kizaru's complexion suddenly changed. The floor under my feet was the first to be unable to bear it, and this huge force shattered in response. The Yellow Monkey didn't have time to think about it, it quickly turned into a light spot, and it collapsed under the attack one step ahead. He is a general, and he has also improved the power of the devil fruit to the extreme. However, when it comes to taijutsu, he is a shortcoming. Facing Escanor, who should have been inferred from the information, is closely related to the strength of the sun, but now suddenly such a tyrannical power burst out. Let the Yellow Monkey, there is a kind of, the feeling of being caught off guard. Lost the resistance of Kizaru, the domineering divine axe Rita, with the might of 1,000 powers, slammed down towards the ground. Under the catharsis of the huge force, the huge pier, centered on the attack, shattered and opened. Under the flying gravel, one after another hideous cracks quickly spread around. Under the rewinding of the sand and dust in the sky, the people who could not be avoided in the surrounding area were immediately drowned. The awe-inspiring wind swept the entire dock like a frenzy. Boom! A thunderous explosion suddenly sounded. Like a million. The impact swept away like a frenzy. 3 celestial dragons, Spandane, etc., who had no power to speak of, were instantly tossed out. The huge pier, at this moment, seems to be forcibly split in half. The violent scene made the expression of Kizaru who appeared in the air again change involuntarily. Looking at the ruined pier below, and the 3 heavenly dragons who were overturned, he said, "What a nasty little devil, you attack the heavenly dragons like this, but you will make me go back and be punished. However, since you have already started, it seems that the negotiation is ineffective. You can only be severely injured before taking you back to the Warring States period." 8-foot Changgu Yu. Om. The golden light was torn apart in the hands of the Yellow Monkey. Endless spot of light, like the moment when the frenzy surged, an awe-inspiring murderous intent spread out. Go to hell. Kazuna wretchedly crooked his mouth and said with a smile. The next moment, the golden light in his hand burst open like fireworks. Bang 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 bang. A golden beam of light, like a rainstorm, instantly shrouded Long Yu's face. However, more attacks are still locked on Nico Robin. Kizaru's eyes, since Long Yu wanted to save people, he would never let Nico Robin die. The face of a battle of this scale, Nico Robin's strength is simply useless. It can be said that now she is just a more beautiful drag oil bottle. I can only watch the beam of light expand in my pupils, and I can't even catch up with the chance to react. However, this thought flashed through my mind just now. A burly body appeared in front of her one step ahead. It collided with the falling beams of light from the sky. Boom! The dull explosion sound was instantly heard. Feel the rush of air. Spandane, who climbed up in the ruins, and the 3 heavenly dragons looked eagerly at where Long Yu was. When I thought about that just now, that kind of attack like a catastrophe spread. For Spandane, he couldn't wait to see Dragon Feather being shot into a hornet's nest. However, this idea just sprouted in his mind, and the first scene that caught his eye caused his pupils to shrink suddenly. Full body, armed and domineering. Looking at the iron tower body that was more than 3 meters long, its muscles were bulging, like a rock, and it was covered with a dark and domineering military color. Everyone couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Color of heavy metal is enough to give people a kind of inexplicable sense of security. Chapter 708. Ignore Halo Stone. Bang! Long Yu stepped out in the dust, looked sideways at the yellow monkey who fell from the sky and said, "As expected of a general, your attack made my skin a little itchy. It is worth my full-body armed arrogance." Crazy. After these words fell, everyone present, even Nico Robin, found Escanor in front of him was simply insane. In their eyes, Kizaru is a dignified naval admiral. Long Yu dared to speak like this. It was contempt for the general. However, where does this contemptuous confidence come from? It is even more worthy of scrutiny. You tell me, it gets weaker at dusk. Long Yu lowered his head a little and looked at Huang Yuandao, who was hundreds of meters away. Then let you see, what is the invincible posture? The small voice, at this moment, seemed to be infused with a magic sound, hitting the depths of the soul. Everyone could react. Long Yu turned down his right hand, clenched the divine axe Rita, and threw it towards the sky suddenly. The inexplicable action instantly tensed everyone's nerves. Hurriedly looked up at the sky, and the scene that caught my eye first made my pupils shrink. The golden axe rose from the sky, and as the height increased, endless golden flames burst out. The next moment, Long Yu raised his head suddenly, and suddenly caught him from the air. Unmerciful sun. Bang! The sky-high flames, like a sea of fire, swept across the whole world with a fiery hurricane. Everyone just felt that the blazing light in front of them rose, and they could see the sky again. At dusk, in the gradually darkening sky, a second sun appeared. A huge fireball with a diameter of tens of meters, the flaming flames brought extremely high heat. Let everyone in the field have a feeling of being in a furnace. In particular, the originally calm sea surface, at this moment, is like boiling, and a large amount of water vapor is transpired. Gollum. The sound of swallowing saliva sounded one after another. In the face of this miraculous skill, it can be produced. It was the first time they saw the sun-like means. Rao is Huang Yuan, his face is wretched and light, but also a little dignified in an instant. Before I had time to think about it, my pupils shrank suddenly when I entered my eyes again. Of 7 or 8 meters, huge and covered in flames, appeared in front of everyone. A fiery wave of air, following Long Yu's breathing, rushed towards his face like a hurricane. The rock under my feet melted away directly towards me, which had already climbed to 40 or 50 degrees, doubled again. The closest Robin has all the clothes on his body. Was burned. If it wasn't for the magic power that Long Yu actively overflowed for protection, I'm afraid the blood in the body would have already evaporated. Find a ship, stand farther away, and the battle will be over soon. Long Yu turned his head sideways and said slowly. Index finger of the right hand, the fiery light rose, and directly touched the handcuffs of Halushi. Click. Halushi's handcuffs were blown. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Nico Robin was directly liberated from the shackles. He can ignore Halushi. Kadaru slowed down in the ruins, looking at the scene in front of him with disbelief. In their eyes, Halushi is the natural enemy of devil fruit power users. However, now Long Yu's actions have undoubtedly subverted his cognition. However, facing the doubts in her heart, Nico Robin didn't dare to stay any longer, feeling that her physical strength from being suppressed by Halushi gradually recovered. With the help of the power of Wawa fruit, he selected the naval warship hundreds of meters away from here and flew away. She clearly knew that Long Yu, who displayed such a terrifying gesture, obviously intended to end the battle as soon as possible. Then, the next battle that will be staged will definitely be shocking. Little careless, I am afraid that I will be involved in the aftermath of the battle and lose my life directly. What's more, the blood that makes people evaporate, and there is a second sun hanging in the sky. That entered the scene completely gave people a feeling of death. If it wasn't for lack of ability, Nico Robin would like to put her wings on and escape from this place as soon as possible. Seeing the more beautiful oil bottle go away, Escanor mechanically turned his head back, squinted at Kizaru, and said slowly, "I'm sorry, let's continue. However, I forgot to tell you that now I am invincible." Invincible's word-by-word voice, at this moment, gives people the feeling of being extremely deaf. No, it should be said that there is a sense of arrogance carved into the bones between the lines. Facing Escanor, with that arrogant face, everyone's nerves were suddenly tense. Regardless of, is a dragon man or a spandane, even the naval soldiers who are stationed here and hide in the distance. His eyes also swept around and locked on the body of General Kizaru. In their eyes, in the face of this maddened Escanor, the only person who can fight against it is Kizaru. Kazuna, as long as you kill him, I can nominate you to be a marshal. Kazuna, if you defeat him, I'll give you 100 slaves. Chapter 709, I caught you. I'll give you 5 billion Baileys. 3 celestial dragons were the first to shout. As Tianlong people who have always claimed to be above all races, when have they experienced such a bad island? I originally planned to stay at the dock this time, so I could pick up a leak. I never thought that what I was waiting for was a social beating. This made the dignified Tianlong people swallow this breath. Feeling the urgent gaze from all around, Kizaru glanced at the life card in his hand, and then looked at Long Yu again. Escanor, your strength is really strong, but this is the Holy Land Mary Joa. But it's not your turn to go wild. I don't need to be defeated, as long as I delay enough time. What happens here will soon attract the attention of others and come to reinforce. At that time, you will still be dead. Speaking of which, Kizaru grinned wryly and said, "Little devil, have you tried being kicked by the beam?" The standard lines were spoken, and the yellow monkey strode forward. The whole person instantly collapsed and turned into a golden light that filled the sky, like a horse training, one step ahead across hundreds of meters, and came to Long Yu. Without any fancy, under the tight muscles of his right foot, with the power of the laser beam, he suddenly kicked it towards Long Yu's neck. The violent blow made people's eyes unable to keep up. Who seemed to be indifferent, Kizaru's wretched expression turned into a stern face. The moment his eyes met, he read contempt in Long Yu's eyes. Bang! The beam-like kick instantly landed on Long Yu's neck. The huge impact force caused a stern wind to roll back away. Together with the overwhelmed rock under his feet, it also shattered. However, in the face of Kayabu's confident beam kick, Long Yu's posture, except that his neck was slightly crooked, was not at all a problem at all. The moment his eyes squinted on Kizaru, an inexplicable sense of crisis sprouted on his spine. "I caught you," Long Yu said slowly. However, the movements in his hands were completely unambiguous, with a stern sound of breaking through the air, and clasped the ankle of the yellow monkey. The violent scene made the yellow monkey look normal. Before I could think about it, the whole person burst out with a dazzling, 8-foot light bomb. Boom! The golden light of the dazzling light instantly seemed to explode with a bang. The huge impact force swept away like a frenzy, directly drowning Long Yu. With the help of this huge explosive force, Kizaru felt a slight loosening of Long Yu's right hand. Direct elementalization, rapidly widening the distance. However, just as he had escaped a few hundred meters, a voice that was like the urging of death reverberated in his ears again. In the endless golden explosion storm, that burly body stepped out in one step. The 5 fingers of the right hand merged, and a hand knife fell towards Kizaru in the air. Holy Sword Escanor! Boom! The knife fell. The golden light shrouded in the sky was torn apart in an instant. A 100-meter huge blazing fire slashed, instantly tearing the earth apart. With a rolling posture, he went straight after Kayabu. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. Under the drastic change in Kayabu's expression, he didn't have time to think about it, and hurriedly planned to turn into a spot of light and run away. However, this idea has just emerged. Kizaru suddenly wanted to remember the existence of the three-day dragons. In the face of such an attack, no matter. It's a navy soldier, or it's Spandane. In Kyabu's philosophy, it is somewhat similar to a kainu. At least, on the road of justice, sacrifice is inevitable. However, when he thought that the responsibility of the general was to protect the safety of the Tianlong people first and foremost, this made the yellow monkey grit his teeth and plan to save people. However, this idea just popped into my mind. Sudden and arrogant voice sounded again. Unmerciful son. Long Yu looked at Huang Yuan with a hint of hesitation, and his right hand suddenly grabbed it from the air. Hanging in midair, the sun, which has reached a diameter of 100 meters, instantly moved like a meteor from the sky, with a rolling posture, whistling and rolling down. For a time, the thunder were so loud that it resounded throughout the holy land of Mary Joa. The face of this double blow, let alone other people, even Kazuna's nerves were suddenly tense to the extreme. Without any hesitation, he turned around and ran away. That it is better to die as a poor Taoist than to die as a fellow Taoist is completely applicable to any place. Buried here with those rubbish, Kizaru still intense, and it would be better to be blamed for 2 or 3 sentences afterwards. Light spot in the sky collapsed in the void, the huge fireball, and the slashing slash, fell in an instant. Boom! The sky-high flames rolled back like a tidal wave. Under the endless hurricane of flames, even the palace complex where the Holy Land Mary Joa, a few kilometers away from the pier, was instantly attacked by fire waves. The fierce and unparalleled slash, even across the endless land, slashed on the thick city wall. Chapter 710, Sun Falling. The thunderous explosion sounded again. It made the Tianlong people and the scorpions who were originally staying in this paradise-like, holy land of Mary Joa, stunned. At this moment, for them, there was simply an illusion that the Holy Land Mary Joa had come to an end. Once again broke the tranquility and peace of this holy place. No, it should be said that it completely overturned the identity of Mary Joa as a holy place for 800 years. At the same time, it is several nautical miles away from the Red Soil continent. Kainu quickly approached the port. On the deck of the huge warship headed by him, Akainu was looking down at the distant sea horizon with a gloomy face. This is not the first time he has come here. He clearly knew that as long as he bypassed this natural vortex and passed through the windless belt, he would be able to see the largest port into the sea in the Holy Land Mary Joa. According to the information provided by the island of France, Spandane will escort Nico Robin and land from here. This will be the most likely place to appear once Escanor is crazy enough to attack Holy Mary Joa. General Akainu, I didn't find any suspicious traces along the way. The ghost spider was at the back of the deck, walked up quickly, and said slightly hesitantly. This time, could it be that the Warring States Marshal's inference was wrong? After all, this is the Red Earth continent, and it is the Holy Land Mary Joa. No matter how crazy Escanor is, I'm afraid there will be a measure. I don't believe that he really dares to go to the Holy Land of Red Earth, Marjoya say. A slightly suspicious voice echoed on the deck. However, before the ghost spider could finish speaking, the Navy soldiers guarding the mast observation deck were the first to roar. General Akainu, something is wrong. The sun is falling over the mouth of the Holy Land Mary Joa. The sun fell, and Akainu's expression froze. No, it should be said that even the ghost spider's face has changed. The moment before, he threatened that Escanor had no holy place for Mary Joa. Looking back now, I found that the other party was smashing the field. This slap in the face is too fast. Damn it, what the hell is he doing? Let me see. Akainu's face sank, the molten lava rolled down under his feet, and the whole person shot into the sky like a cannonball. However, he just rushed out of the height of 7 or 8 meters. First thing I saw was the fire that soared into the sky, and the waves of more than 10 meters that rolled backwards in a rolling posture. That fiery wind and waves made Akainu instantly push back 7 or 8 meters in mid-air. Waiting for him to react, he can see. The places were occupied by fire. Didn't find it at all. There was a huge fireball in the sky thousands of meters high, and it quickly fled in the opposite direction. I don't know how long it took. That was tumbling with fiery lava directly pierced through the last big wave that came. Was bathed in molten lava, with a stern sound of breaking through the air, with the help of EPUB, took the lead to arrive at the pier of the Holy Land Mary Joa. However, Port Mary Joa, the most luxurious port in the whole of the Great Waterway, is now in ruins. The crumbling rock formations and the earth burnt like terracotta for thousands of miles. Looking around, it is a mess, and there are no so-called buildings and sculptures. Trees and rocks, everything. In the attack just now, it seemed to disappear without a trace. In particular, that slash that was torn apart by sharp claws. It quickly spread to the huge castle walls several miles away. The broken copper walls and iron walls, the shattered large palace courtyards. There were roaring flames, and bursts of panic-stricken cries. At this moment, the feeling given to Akainu is like the end of the world. As an admiral, he had once thought about the absurd situation that would happen in Holy Mary Joa. Looking at the Murloc Tiger's liberation, it's just a small fight. It can be said that this time, in the eyes of Akainu, Escanor is basically a trouble with the whole sea. Akainu, you are finally here. The yellow monkey's voice suddenly sounded. Soon he saw that endless spots of light converged on Akainu's side, revealing a slightly embarrassed Kiwi. However, Kizaru, who has always liked the king of soy sauce, had a bitter expression on his face. He met Akainu's gaze and explained helplessly, "You can't blame me, I didn't use soy sauce this time. It's just that Escanor's strength and information are wrong. At dusk, the sun fruit ability he possesses is still exerting his full strength. A monster whose fruit ability has been developed to the extreme, and the level of physical art has reached the level of profound meaning. I really don't know where it came from. Compared with that big skeleton demon, it is completely unrepentant." Humph. Akainu snorted coldly and said, "Kazuna, you should know very well that this time not only you will be punished, but I am no exception. Now, tell me how Escanor is doing, whether he is injured, or even seriously injured. If so, then launching the entire naval headquarters to hunt down may be effective." Chapter 711, The Rocks Pirates. In the face of this scene that has become a foregone conclusion, Akainu is also a little fortunate in his heart. He personally led the team a few times before, but he failed many times in the hands of the great skeleton demon and suffered a lot. Now that this matter falls on Huang Yuan, the psychological pressure is not so great. However, when Akainu saw Kizaru's faltering expression, his face froze, and he said, "Kizuka, don't tell me that Escano guy is only slightly injured." Akainu stared straight at Kizaru's change in expression. At the moment when he shook his head, he couldn't help but hurriedly asked, "Kazuna, you won't tell me Escanor escaped unscathed?" The hurried voice was a little trembling at this moment. It can be said that Akainu thinks with his toes when facing the messy Mary Joa in front of him. Never expected that the situation would turn into this situation. I only played a few tricks with him, but after he created the second sun, his strength has soared several times, and even I have a feeling that it is difficult to resist, and there are still a few Tianlong people's waste. When I recovered, everything was irreversible, and that guy also escaped. The yellow ape is no longer as calm as he used to be. The bitterness on his face almost condensed the expression on his cheeks. Akainu's face turned blue all of a sudden. As he was in the same period, he was very aware of Kizaru's temperament. After a little hesitation, he said, "Kazuna, since that guy has retreated, we are going to pursue it now, and there is not much possibility at all. We have to consider now how to explain to the Warring States Marshal and the 5 Old Stars." "Akainu, you mean to explain to us?" A cold old voice suddenly sounded. Akainu and Kizaru's faces changed involuntarily. He hurriedly followed the voice, and the first thing that caught his eye was a bald monk in a kimono and holding the first generation of ghosts, among the 5 old stars. However, his already gloomy face was now completely gloomy. Yi sang, you 5 old stars were originally in the Holy Land Mary Joa, and if you didn't help in time, if you help, Kizaru will definitely not be caught off guard. Akainu's face changed, and he was the first to snort. The face of the current defeat, even the Holy Land Mary Joa was affected by the battle and was almost completely destroyed. In front of Akainu's eyes is for the wicked to complain first. Good, Akainu. Didn't expect that you would know about the warring states. A monk's expression sank, and he shouted coldly. This time, it's up to you to carry out the task, not only to let that arrogant person save the devil's son, but also to destroy the Holy Land Mary Joa, and finally let him retreat, should you pay the price this time. In the huge ruins, an inexplicable suppressed breath permeated. A monk's right hand slowly clenched the first generation Onishi in his hand. Facing this violent scene, the faces of Akainu and Kizaru suddenly sank. Stop, monk, don't make fun of them. Wearing a black suit and long white beard, walked out of the ruins. The inexplicable depressing aura shrouded in the field was instantly dissipated. The stern old face of the monk also eased slightly, and when he let go of the hand that caught the first generation of ghosts, he snorted coldly. Okay, I will deal with the matter here, a monk and it's not much use for you to stay here now. Ill instructed lightly. Go back and let the warring states investigate, what is the relationship between Escanor and the skeleton demon? These 2 people seem to have jumped out of a stone, and there is no way to trace them. If these 2 people are a group, then it is still unknown whether there is any organization behind them. Speaking of this, Ill's face sank slightly and said, according to the performance of these few battles, no matter what. The skeleton demon, or Escanor, who has the superhuman system and the sun fruit, they all have the strength not inferior to the admiral of the navy. If there really is some organization behind them, or a pirate group, etc., then the threat is probably no less than the existence of the Rocks pirates 50 years ago. The expressions of Kizaru and Akainu of the Rocks pirates suddenly changed. 50 years ago, when the Rocks pirates were rampant and dominated the sea. They still don't know which corner to make a fuss about. However, even the 2 of them had heard of the bad sea record. In addition to the leading captain, Rocks, the 4 emperors that exist in this world are Whitebeard, Kaido, and Charlotte Lingling. All of them were independent in the sea after the collapse of the Rocks pirates. In addition, there is the Golden Lion, the admiral of the flying pirates. Silver Axe Strait, Golden Hand John etc. Chapter 712, The Sin of Pride. Each of them has the appearance of a big pirate. If, behind the skeleton demon and Escanor, there is really an organization similar to the Rocks pirates, then is there any scary guy coming out next? If there really are other scary guys out there, how many people are there? If this assumption is true, once it really comes out of the water, will their naval headquarters and even the world government be able to take up this huge challenge? Thinking of this, Akainu and Kizaru subconsciously disagree. Take a look. This makes them have a feeling of pondering and terrifying. Capturing the changes in the 2's expressions, Ill said in a deep voice, okay, there are still many things to deal with, I hope you can bring us good news next time. Abandoning these words, Ill and Yi Seng did not stop and turn to leave. At the same time, in the New World. Inside the huge flight editor-in-chief of Big News Morgans. The phone bug kept ringing. In the independent office, Morgans looked at the sighting report on the desktop, and his face was even more excited and excited. Big news, just big news. Not only did the Chambord archipelago make a riot, beheaded Kaido's men of the 4 emperors and beasts, but also single-handedly captured Fa Dao. When this news spreads, it will definitely shock the whole sea. It is definitely super big news. With this level of strength and deeds, I am afraid that it is only slightly inferior to the big skeleton demon that appeared not long ago. As Morgan spoke, the hands that held the intelligence trembled with excitement. In his eyes, all this was far beyond his expectations. Thinking of this, Morgan suddenly stood up and shouted in a hurry, "People outside, type the news for me, and I want to send the news today." Bang! The door to the office was pushed open. Figure rushed in quickly from the outside and said, "Editor-in-Chief Morgans, great news, the front page you have in your hand can't be published yet." There can be no inexplicable scene, so Morgans can't help but startled. What's the matter? Is Zero planning to do our news? As the largest in the New World, Big News Morgans is also one of the kings of the underground forces. Has the largest news channel. Looking at any era, newspapers and culture are powerful soft powers. If the world government wants to control the fishing reels, it must control the source of the news agency. Therefore, there are often a lot of spies in ambush around the Big News Morgans. Usually, they will pay to rewrite certain news reports. The deputy editor's subordinate suddenly rushed in to stop it. This gives Big News a kind of preconceived notion. Editor-in-Chief Morgans, no. Deputy editor hurriedly shook his head, took out the latest information with his backhand, and immediately reported it in a hurry. This is the latest big news about Escanor, and the shock is far from the island of France. Worse than the Isle of Fair incident. Morgans was startled for a moment. Before he could continue to ask questions, he looked down at the sighting report he received in his hand, as well as various photos. Expression changed drastically in an instant, and the whole person couldn't help falling down on the chair, mumbling to himself. Crazy madman, that's just madness. If this matter spreads out, I'm afraid not to mention the sea, and even the fourth emperor will be shocked by it. Not long ago, a big skeleton demon of unknown origin rose to become the new 5 emperors, and now there is a lunatic Escanor, who also has no origin to pursue. Will they be people of the same power, if they really know? As a journalist, Morgans is also known as the Big News. Regardless of, is it the sense of news, or the ability to add salt and vinegar to news? No ordinary person can compare. However, it is precisely because of this reason that what he is looking for is exactly the same as the speculation of the 5 old stars, the wonder of the same song and the same sound. Editor-in-Chief Morgans, are we going to schedule the news now? If it is delayed, I am afraid that the incident in the French island will be reported first. The deputy editor hurriedly said. At the same time, he took out another photo and said, "This is a follow-up request provided by witnesses." She said that Escanor thought the moniker of madman was too bad and needed to be changed to Escanor the sin of arrogance, which was the lion tattoo on his back. The crime of arrogance. Morgans couldn't help but be startled, remembering the intelligence information he had been through. He couldn't help but show excitement. As expected of a defiant, arrogant and rude man, I know what to do to completely magnify the shock of the news. Already. Hurry up and go to me and print the newspaper. New World, in the flower capital of Wano country. The huge courtyard, many dancers were dancing. The girl at the head has long light blue hair, and the makeup looks perfect. The lotus step is like a blooming flower, and a glance and a smile add to the seductive posture. Under the flow of a pair of beautiful eyes, the eyes flowed from time to time on the 2 people who were drinking in the first place. Chapter 713, Is My Beast Pirates Easy to Bully? In particular, I paid more attention to that burly figure like a mountain. Xiaozi, why are you staring at Kaido all the time today? Could it be that General Ben doesn't look good to you? Come and give General Ben a few glasses of wine. A drunken shout suddenly sounded. Xiaozi quickly reacted in a trance. After signaling the singing and dancing to stop, she saluted with a smile and said, General Orochi, if you say this, it means that Xiaozi is unbearable. Why is General Orochi not in Xiaozi's eyes? I'm just curious, Admiral Kaido, why are you so unhappy today? Is it because Xiaozi's dance is not popular, or Admiral Kaido and General Orochi are tired of Xiaozi? The light voice of words gave people a feeling of self-pity. Especially when paired with Xiaozi, the self-blame and resentment on his face makes people feel more pitiful. Looking at Xiaozi, her brows were pressed down, and her eyes were almost filled with tears. The big snake quickly got up and comforted. Xiaozi, don't misunderstand, it's too late for this general to love you, how could he be tired of you? As for Kaido, it's just that he was slumped overseas, so he's sulking here. Admiral Kaido is deflated. Xiaozi's expression couldn't help but stagnate. During this time, she lurked beside the big snake. Also knows a lot about Kaido's information. Wano Kingdom is indeed an old concept of seclusion and isolation. However, Orochi, the supreme ruler of Wano Kingdom, still has some connections with the outside world. At least, I still know a little about the big news in the New World. It is precisely because of this reason that Xiaozi clearly knows that Kaido's weight outside is far from comparable to that in Wano. There are not a few countries and islands that can be honored as the four emperors of the sea. Can make this existence shriveled, still sulking here, not to take revenge. It was the first time I saw Xiaozi. Xiaozi, you have this problem, don't hurry up and apologize to General Orochi and Admiral Kaido. Still on the side, dozing off, a madman with a super jet. After opening his eyes a little, he scolded with a smile. Xiaozi's complexion changed slightly, and Lianhe stepped forward to apologize. She was so intent on finding out more useful information that she completely forgot the iron rule that more words must be lost in her daily life. Xiaozi, don't accuse you. Big Snake hurriedly said. Don't listen to Quangshalang, this guy doesn't know how to pity fragrance and cherish jade at all. Kaido once came here to drink and drink, this time because Jack was caught by the Navy during the drought among the three disasters, and he was indeed rescued afterwards, but Kaido ran to hunt down the rookie of the Navy. Watching the other party jump into the sea and disappear. Admiral Kaido is injured. Xiaozi's complexion changed suddenly, but she was still more shocked in her heart. She is no longer the ignorant girl she used to be, and she already knows how powerful Kaido is. At least, in the mouth of the so-called Wano country social man, the gang boss, he is completely unsure of defeating the three disasters. Not to mention, defeating and even wounding the beasts Kaiduo. HMPH, this little injury, I will heal in the blink of an eye. Kaido slammed the wine glass in his hand on the table, and said angrily, Orochimaru, what I'm angry about now is that not long ago, in the Chambord Islands, someone beheaded my subordinates. During this period of time, is it because the 100 Beasts pirates' reputation is not enough, or it has not been dispatched for too long, so that the world thinks that my 100 Beasts pirates are easy to bully? Boom. Speaking of which, the beast Kaido shattered the wine glass in his hand. However, don't worry, I have given an order to bring back the head of that bastard. I will let the people on this sea know that the madness of my beasts, Kaido, is not. They can provoke them casually. The rolling voices echoed in the courtyard like thunder. Looking at Kaido, the beast, who was clearly in the mood for drinking. Many people present couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. They knew very well that the big man in front of him was very powerful, but he couldn't compliment him for lack of wine. However, in the face of all this, Xiaozi silently recorded this information in her heart. She clearly knew that relying on her own strength and the power in Wano's country, which was like a piece of scattered sand, there was absolutely no way to avenge her. The only way to do it is to rely on external forces, perhaps it can be achieved. Come here, pour me a drink. After I finish drinking this glass, let the people in this sea know that the madness of my beast Kaido is not. Anyone can provoke it. Kaido touched the remaining drink at the corner of his mouth again, and after burping, he roared in a hurry. When Xiaozi heard the words, she quickly regained her senses, snatched the jug beside her, and planned to go up to refill. Pity that before she could take any further action, there was an awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the sky. A black shadow projected in the sky and finally attracted everyone's attention. Chapter 714, with the power of one person alone, the sci-fi island will be captured. The burning embers of the three calamities. Huang Shilang raised his brows, looking a little surprised. The affairs of the three disasters are very clear, and the epidemic disaster Quinn manages the Rabbit Bowl, the largest prison in Wano country. Drought Jack is in charge of overseas missions. As the strongest fire disaster among the three disasters, it is the most important gateway to the sea guarding the country of Wano. 365 days a year, Jin rarely leaves this place. Today's sudden visit means that things may not be so simple. Jin, why are you here? Come and have 2 glasses of wine with me. When I go out this time, I must nail that Escanor to the wooden frame, and the naval supernova, too. Kaido opened his hazy eyes, and began to shout in a hurry. However, in the face of Kaido's persuasion, after Jin fell from the sky, he did not take the wine glass, and glanced at the arena indifferently and said, "Boss Kaido, there was a big incident at sea 3 days ago, and it was the same as the one in the Chambord Islands not long ago. About the man who killed West Hempstead. There is a big event." Kaido's sense of drinking dissipated slightly, and then he waved his big hand and laughed recklessly and said, "What big event, in my eyes, is not the destruction of the Navy headquarters, or the killing of Lingling and Whitebeard. It's not a big event. Damn Morgans, I was slashed with a knife, and I told him about the big incident. The next time I meet him, I have to turn his head off." An unhappy roar echoed in the courtyard. Looking at Kaido, whose face was red and his ears were red, and he was clearly drinking, no one dared to speak to him in the huge courtyard. In their eyes, there is an existence that can cut even the beast's Kaido. Definitely not an ordinary person. Looking at Wano, it can definitely be called a big event. However, the fact that others did not dare to speak up did not mean that Jin, the leader of the three disasters, did not dare. After putting down the wine glass that Kaido handed over, he took out a newspaper and said, "Boss Kaido, that Escanor did not kill Whitebeard and Charlotte Lingling, nor did he destroy the Navy headquarters. On the contrary, with the power of one person alone, the Fa Island was captured." Kaido's expression after having captured Fa Island couldn't help but stagnate, and even said, "That kind of broken place, I can also break through." "Jin, what are you making a fuss about?" spread out Lao Su's face, "But where does it go?" Kaido's mouth. "That's it, I'm still a little surprised. At least, in their eyes, the French island and the naval headquarters have different meanings. As pirates and the Navy headquarters, it's not strange to go to war with each other. Thing that Fa Dao mainly deal with are the major kingdoms, underground organizations, and the Revolutionary Army. The conflict with the pirates is not that big. A pirate suddenly ran to attack the island of Fa, which is undoubtedly beyond the expectations of many people. "No, Boss Kaido." Jin took out the second newspaper with his backhand and said, "In the beginning, like the boss, I didn't take the matter of Fa Island's breach to heart. It was only after half a day that I got the second newspaper. After half a day, that guy went to the Red Earth continent, made a scene in the Holy Land Mary Joa, and then took Nico Robin, the son of the devil, away under the eyes of the great general, the Yellow Monkey. Now, and it was mentioned in the newspaper that Escanor, the sin of arrogance, and the great skeleton demon Uchiha Ryayu are probably from the same faction. Isn't it just making a riot in the Holy Land Mary Joa? You said that the arrogant person and the bone may come from the same force." Kaido didn't care at first. Soon, his expression stagnates, and when his eyes are round, he asks and exclaims. At the level of Kaido, it is indeed shocking to make troubles on Fa Island and the Holy Land Mary Joa. However, in the eyes of their 4 emperors, as long as they want to do it, they can also do it. It's just that the thing that affects Kaido's nerves the most right now is that the skeleton demon and Escanor may come from the same faction. Not long ago, the rise of the 5 sovereigns at sea was a riot. In particular, the naval siege of the world destroyer Bondwald. It even made the Skull Demon's fierce reputation soar to the position of the 5th emperor, and the reward reached 22.4 billion Baileys. although there is still a huge distance from their 4 emperors. However, facing the growing power of the skeleton demon, Kaido also felt a little bit of fear. Believe that as long as time passes, the power of the great skeleton demon will probably grow stronger. After all, even the world destroyer Bondewald, and the former 7-sea sand crocodile, 2 giant leaders who offered a bounty of over 100 million 100 years ago. They also joined the subordinates of the skeleton demon. According to this lineup, looking at the sea, it is no longer comparable to Chiwahai. It can be said that the group that is infinitely close to their 4 emperors is no exception. However, now the big news Morgans also broke out that suddenly appeared, in a short period of time, attacked the Chambord Islands and killed his own men. The morning, they captured the Isle of Fa, and in the afternoon, they made a scene of Escanor in the Holy Land Mary Joa. Chapter 715, Eardrum Pain. If these 2 people really come from the same force, there are other people behind them. Would definitely be a huge impact on their 4 emperors, and even the entire Great Channel. Not careful, I am afraid that all parties will be shuffled. Boss Kaido, should we continue to hunt him down now? Ash asked in a low voice. After the time of the Chambord Islands came out, Kaido the Beast personally issued a hunting order to bring back Escanor's head. Now Escanor's identity and the things involved are completely different. Little careless, I am afraid that the status of the 4 emperors will be shaken. For a time, the eyes of everyone in the arena swiped and locked on Kaido's body. Especially Xiaozi, she was eager to know, in this sea, whether there really exist people who make Kaido fear the beasts. You bastard! The beast Kaido roared and slapped the table with his backhand. Bang! The desktop shattered in response to the sound, and the wave of air caused the complexion of many people in the field to change dramatically. Even the big snake sitting next to Kaido is no exception. Jin, are you planning to make me Kaido laugh at the sea? Kaido's face sank, and he roared angrily, I am the admiral of the beast pirates, one of the 4 emperors, Kaido of the beasts. When have I ever been afraid of death? I'm just afraid that no one can take my life. Pass on the order to me, whoever can bring back Escanor's head will have a chance to get a big kanban. If anyone has an opinion, even if it starts a war, I'm not afraid. The rolling voices echoed in the heaven and the earth for a long time, and there was no way to disperse. The faces of many people in the arena changed dramatically. Even the indifferent Jin is no exception. Boss Kaido, you give a big look, are you planning to send those guys out? Ash asked lightly. Under their 3 disasters, there are also the 6 sons of the volley led by Quinn. However, the 6 sons of the sky seem to be under the command. It's just that when we really investigate it, among the 6 sons of Linkong, there are still people who are dissatisfied with the 3 disasters. Those guys are also bored. Instead of destroying everywhere, it is better to let them carry out their tasks. It seems that during this time, our beast pirates, in the eyes of outsiders, are too calm, so they were repeatedly attacked. People come to the door. Beast Kaido's face sank and said angrily. It's also time, let them go out and spread the terror of our 100 beast pirates. Speaking of which, Kaido looked at Jin and said, you and Quinn have no problem with qualifying for the big Kanban challenge, right? Who can make Kaido absorb into the beast pirates is a thorn. If it wasn't for Kaido's face, I'm afraid that the position of the 3 calamities would definitely be challenged every day. Right now, Kaido of the Beasts proposes to let the 6 sons of the sky to chase after Escanor, which is to allow the 6 sons of the sky to challenge the 3 disasters and get a chance to be promoted. Boss Kaido, I have no opinion, and I believe others have no opinion either. Ember replied lightly. It's just that, not long ago, where Whitebeard was, the captain of the 4th Division, Sachi, was killed. I heard that it was the work of the new captain of the 2nd and 2nd Division, Fire Fist Ace. Do we need to take the opportunity to attack a wave? Trouble to find that ill man with Whitebeard. Kaido's brows furrowed. They were both crew members of the Rocks Pirates, and they had never met each other for a long time. What's more, the rules of survival on the rocks ship are that the strong are respected, and whoever has the bigger fist speaks. Death is not uncommon on ships. Therefore, as the former crew members, Kaido and Whitebeard became queens, and there was no shortage of conflicts and battles. Contrary, there is a kind of feeling, the feeling is getting stronger and stronger. Last fight, that guy Marco, owes me a kick. Ember said lightly. However, anyone can hear the hatred between the words. Facing his confidant, Kaido was clearly aware of Jin's temperament. After frowning for a moment, he waved his hand and said, "That guy with Whitebeard, didn't he keep saying that day, the position of the second division will always be reserved for Odin?" Now I suddenly recognize a new godson, and I immediately broke the oath of the day and handed over the position of the second and second division to a newcomer. The speed of recognizing my son is always much better than that of outsiders. Haha, this is a typical pirate ruthless. Kaido laughed and said, "If you have a chance, let Jack harass those guys. If you can, kill a few of him and see how he reacts. Just remember that we, the Beast Pirates, are never afraid of anyone. I've always wanted to die, but unfortunately no one in this world can kill me, no matter what. Is it Whitebeard, or the so-called Fifth Emperor Skull Demon? In front of me, it's just bullshit." The rolling voices were like thunder and thunder, which shook the eardrums. It can be said that each of the four emperors has their own distinctive characteristics. Chapter 716, Going to Sea. Whitebeard likes to have a son, and Charlotte Lingling likes to have a son. The Beast Kaido has animal fetish to close his subordinates. Redheads love elite lineups. However, as long as you take a closer look, you can find that Kaido has crazy capital. Not only does it have the best combat power on the sea itself. At the same time, it also relies on the country of Wano as the old nest, and the snake seems to be in trouble. It's just the complementarity of the alliance between the two, but it gives the Beast Pirates more confidence to kill. Tens of thousands of samurai, as well as the natural danger of Wano country, a group of powerful snake men. Regardless of. No matter how Kaido is killed, he can come back here to hide. It can be said that this place is much better than the Beehive Island that Rocks chose that day and now belongs to Whitebeard's old hive. Moreover, in Kaido's lineup, there are also cold lips and teeth. In the original work, Doflamingo, who played against Luffy, always has 3 strengths and 2 weaknesses, and Kaido will run away, still maintains a deep cooperative relationship. It can be said that, to a certain extent, the comprehensive alliance strength of the Beast Pirates is even greater than that of the other 3. I see. Jin didn't stay any longer, turned around and left. Jin already knew all about Kaido's crazy actions. As the think tank of the Beast Pirates, the only thing he can do is to minimize the risk. Big Snake, I still have something important to talk to you about, go inside. Kaido dropped those words and turned to leave. Facing the drunken beast Kaido, the snake did not dare to be vague, and turned around and quickly followed. Without the 2 backbones, this banquet obviously cannot go on. Huang Xilang glanced at Xiaozi with a smile, shook his head, and turned away with her hesitant to speak. After the 2 were far away from the ears and guards monitoring the courtyard, Huang Xilang said, "Xiaozi, I know that you are eager for revenge, but facing Kaido and Orochi, once a flaw is revealed, I am afraid that even I will not be able to rescue you. You don't plan to put your chips on the skeleton demon and Escanor." Huang Xilang is responsible for guarding the Light and Moon Sun and Xiaozi, who has been incarnated for 20 years, and knows exactly what she has in mind. Xiaozi nodded in agreement. "Uncle Xilang, we have waited too long, no matter what. Whether the Emperor can come back, at least we need to make arrangements in advance. I want to go out to sea to meet him. I'm afraid it's too big a gamble if you want to go to sea. This will put us in Wano. Over the years, your efforts have been completely in vain." Madman's. His face changed suddenly. Over the years, Guanyuerahe has transformed into Xiaozi, and has endured humiliation and burdens by the side of the big snake for a long time. Only then did she climb to the status of this all-time dancer. Now suddenly said to go to sea to leave. This is undoubtedly beyond the cognition of Kuroshio. Uncle Kwangshilang, I stayed in Wano country as a dancer, just to better respond to the emperor's revenge plan in the future. However, Hiyori knows that the current Wano country is not comparable to 20 years ago. Don't forget, we are growing, but Kaido and Orochi are no exception. If we continue to stand still and wait for us in the end, we will only lose. I hope Uncle Kwangshilang, you can make peace. Having said that, Guangyueri and Shenshin performed the etiquette of a junior. Kwangshilang flashed a hint of hesitation on his face, and finally sighed and nodded in agreement. Okay, I'll try to arrange for you to go to sea, but then I'm going to ask someone, I hope he can escort you. Abandoning these words, Kwangshilang glanced around, and after seeing the news and domineering again and again to confirm that it was correct, he took Guangyuri and turned around and left. Same time, on a desert island somewhere in the New World. Collided with a stern sound of breaking through the air. The sharp knives in his hands collided with each other. Boom! The moment the blades collided, immediately. The sword that stirred up a large hurricane swept away with a rolling gesture. The surrounding earth seemed to be slashed by an invisible blade, and a large piece of rock was directly smashed. That or a little further away or directly crushed. For a time, the silence of the entire desert island was instantly broken. Facing this terrifying confrontation, there was clearly a group of people in the distance. Their faces were indifferent. Instead of showing excitement, they commented on the battle while holding a banquet. On the farther coast, one of the four emperors, the pirate ship the red-haired Shanks belonged to, the Reeves, was moored. There is also a small coffin ship next to it. It can be said that if the world knows, Mihawk, one of the seven seas, and the red-haired Shanks, one of the four emperors, meeting in such a place, and then fighting each other. Definitely big news. However, the two had just finished their collision and were planning to continue to fight head-to-head when a figure appeared in the battle circle without warning. Captain, another big event has happened. A cigar in his mouth, Ben Beckman was the first to remind him after dodging the attacking Gangfeng sword. Chapter 717, shocked the whole new world. Another big event. The red-haired expression couldn't help but stagnate, and the attack in his hand also slowed down a beat. Who was excited about the battle, frowned, and the black knife in his hand quickly turned over to avoid the red hair. The air was torn apart instantly, and a knife gang of more than 10 meters flew across the barren hills of hundreds of meters. Abruptly cut it in half. The mountain collapsed with a bang, throwing up a large cloud of dust. Seeing this scene, the redhead laughed awkwardly and said, Hawkeye, you see I'm distracted again, this battle is yours to win. However, this time, your fighting spirit seems to be too high, and you suddenly came to me to discuss. I'm really not used to it. Didn't you say you don't like bullying disabled people? Isn't it, because of the Laxus thing, it was affected? As one of the four emperors, the red hair of course knew clearly about the fight between Laxus and the beast Kaido. What's more, this incident involved his old friend Hawkeye. HMPH, every time you make this excuse, Shanks, you just haven't made any progress. Hawkeye returned the black knife to its sheath, and said with a cold snort. However, at that time, I did underestimate that kid. I didn't expect him to hide his identity as a great swordsman. If we can meet again, I hope to play against him once. Looking at the cold and dreary temperament, the eagle eyes of a straight man of steel, there was a hint of eagerness on his face. The redhead was a little surprised. It was the first time he saw that Hawkeye would be interested in a person. After all, in the eyes of the redhead, among the older generation, the number of swordsmen who can rank in the scene is completely limited. For Hawkeye, those who can learn from each other only have the most familiar red hair. The face of this kind of opponent who is already familiar but not the most familiar, Hawkeye is keen on the younger generation, and can produce some existences that can be seen. Of Laxus undoubtedly became a knock on the door. Hee, It's a rare little guy that interests you. It seems that I will watch it next time. The redhead smiled dryly and put the saber back into its sheath. Looking at Ben Beckman who was approaching, he frowned and said, I rarely see your reaction so big. Could it be that the kid on the Whitebeard ship had an accident? I originally planned to negotiate with the beard. That Blackbeard Tiki, it's not as simple as it seems. If Ace pursues him alone, he will fall into Titch's trap. At that time, Whitebeard will definitely go berserk for his godson. No, it should be said that the old era, which has been silent for so many years, will definitely run wild. Looking at the dignified red hair on his face all of a sudden, Hawkeye couldn't help but raise his brows and said, Shanks, you're worried. You've been waiting for this moment for a long time. It seems that the little devil you relied on, who put his arm in the new era, hasn't grown up yet. The red-haired Shanks, who was infinitely close to the position of the 4 emperors that day, lost an arm in the East China Sea and returned. That shocked the whole new world. Eagle-eyed Mahawk, who was even a close friend, arrived immediately after getting the news. However, in the second dimension, Squinting and the disabled are symbols of perverted powerhouses. After losing his arm, Shanks, instead, made great progress all the way, did a few big things, and had a fight with Whitebeard and the others. He completely sat on the chair of the 4th Emperor. Mahawk, you still understand me. The redhead smiled and patted Hawkeye's shoulder. That kid, and Fire Fist Ace are brothers. If Ace has a problem, Luffy will never sit back and ignore it. If he is a little careless, he may lose his life. What's more, Fire Fist Ace, who has had a banquet with me and drank alcohol, is a good kid. Faced with these remarks, Hawkeye did not go into detail, saying, since you have the intention to intervene in this matter, but still remember that the guy with the white beard is not a good-tempered guy. Being able to become the 4th Emperor is all cruelty. Character. Looking at your words and my words, it is completely like two people who have gone astray. Ben Beckman forgot to smoke the cigar he was holding. After the soot burned the corners of his lips, he suddenly regained his senses and said in a hurry, Shanks, Hawkeye, you have misunderstood. The big incident this time has nothing to do with Whitebeard. Instead, it has something to do with the 5th Emperor skeleton demon who recently appeared at sea. Ben Beckman handed over 2 newspapers. 3 days ago, Escanor, the sun-fruit-capable person who attacked the Chambord Islands, beheaded the officials of the Beast Pirates, attacked Fa Island, and destroyed the Judicial Tower. After half a day, he appeared on the Red Earth continent, destroyed half of the Holy Land Mary Joa, and finally confronted the General Kizaru, and took away Nico Robin, the son of the devil who was secretly arrested. Speaking of which, Ben Beckman dug out the newspaper, revealing the second front-page headline, saying, however, what makes us more worthy of attention is this Escanor, who is known as the crime of arrogance, and now offers a reward of 1 billion Baileys. It may be from the same local faction as the skeleton giant with a bounty of 22.4 billion Bailey. If this intelligence guess is true, it means that there are infinite possibilities behind them. The worst inference is that one will emerge. Like the Rocks Pirates 50 years ago, it is terrifyingly huge. Power groups, when the time comes, the power of the new world will be reshuffled. The slightly long-sounding voice reverberated in the sky, and there was no way to dissipate it for a long time. Chapter 718, No Wind and Waves. Even the faces of Lackey Jezusbu and the others who arrived later couldn't help but change slightly. Ben Beckman didn't say it clearly, but they knew very well that the rise of a hidden force would bear the brunt of the shock for their 4 emperors. The Rocks Pirates. The red-haired eyes narrowed slightly. He joined the Red Hair Pirates, and when he was a trainee crew, the Rocks Pirates had been disintegrated. Rocks, the captain, also disappeared completely. However, in the mouths of Rayleigh and others, Shanks also often heard about Locke's murderous name. A terrifying existence that can gather the beasts Kaido, Whitebeard, Charlotte Lingling, and the Golden Lion. Is really a connection between the skeleton demon and Escanor. Two have already shown the strength to be able to defeat the general and retreat completely. If there are other people hiding behind, that can definitely be called a huge impact on this sea. Even Shanks, who was the fourth emperor, had to face it. Ben Beckman, immediately. Get ready, I'm going to see Whitebeard in person, and if possible, I'll stop the times from running rampant before the situation in this sea is clear. Shanks' expression sank, and he spoke first. Facing his decision, Hawkeye Mahawk fell into silence. He vaguely thought of a more important question. According to the inference from the newspaper, the relationship between the skeleton demon and Escanor was linked from nowhere. That situation is undoubtedly similar to the sudden appearance of Laxus. At the same time, when the four emperors shook. Inside the Navy headquarters, the atmosphere in the huge office has become extremely depressing. Facing the newspapers spread out on the table, the expressions of all the admirals became abnormally blue. In particular, many generals did not dare to take a sigh of relief when they saw the sunken cheeks of the warring states period. On weekdays, Akainu, who likes to fight against Sengoku, also shows rare security. After all, this time he had a part to support Maya, the holy land of the Red Earth continent. Now that this situation has occurred, Escanor has made a riot in the Holy Land Marijoa and then retreated. 3 celestial dragons were also killed and seriously injured. As an admiral, his responsibility is beyond doubt. You bastard! Warring States slapped the newspaper on the table and shouted angrily. What's the matter? Don't you usually like to express your opinions? Seeing this newspaper now, we of the army headquarters was completely lost, and one by one they pretended to be dumb. Speaking of which, the warring states grabbed the newspaper and said angrily, "This Morgans, there is no wind and waves. Poke out the matter of the Holy Land Marijoa, it is already courting death, and also confuse Escanor with the big skeleton, saying that there is something hidden behind it, comparable to the superpower of the Rocks pirates, and will shuffle the new world. The next time I meet him, I will definitely use shockwaves to kill him." The hysterical roar echoed in the huge office, and there was no way to dissipate it for a long time. It was the first time they had seen the dignified admiral behaving so hysterically. However, looking at the description in the newspaper, there was an introduction to the Rocks pirates from Suruguchi not long ago. The young generals who were present knew it very well. And Escanor really have a huge force comparable to the Rocks pirates. What awaits their naval headquarters will be a huge challenge. Little careless, the pirates attacked, and the Navy headquarters, which has been losing successively during this period, is probably not their opponent at all. It will eventually perish on the sea. Thinking of this, the admiral's nerves suddenly became tense. They desperately wanted to know that the warring states, as a marshal, faced the assumptions in the newspapers. Is there really any countermeasure? Okay, warring states, you should finish complaining. Crane spoke first. This time the matter has been cast. You must have thought of a way to deal with it when you called us at this juncture. During this period of time, our Navy headquarters suffered successive defeats, except for Laxus, as a Navy supernova, after the Beast Pirates, and even Kaido suffered a lot, after helping us save a little face. Our Navy's prestige, not only in the Great Route, but also in the Four Seas, has been greatly weakened. Having said that, Crane threw a stack of reports on the table with his backhand. During this period of time, many new pirate groups have emerged in the Four Seas, and it feels like a blowout. It is one of the big pirate eras that opened when Roger, the Pirate King, was executed. Among them, there are also many newcomers with outstanding strength, and the reward has reached 7 or 8,000, 10,000, and they have committed numerous crimes. If our Navy headquarters, there will be no other actions. No matter what. In the Great Waterway, even among the slightly weaker Four Seas, the prestige will also plummet, the accusations of the world government will be greater, and the funds of the Navy will be greatly reduced. Chapter 719, The Key to Turning the Situation Around. The voice of Chang's words echoed in the conference room, making the complexion of warring states turn ashen. Not to mention, the generals who were subordinates. Crane's words meant that he did not show any sympathy to their admirals at all. But everything said is true. Since the appearance of the skeleton demon, the advanced city prison has been breached. Their naval headquarters suffered too much. Moreover, most of these losses are still under the leadership of Akainu, which can be called a dog eating shit. If it continues like this, let alone the naval headquarters has no prestige in the sea. Even their admiral's face could not hold back. You said so much, I think you should have some ideas. Warring States turned his eyes and landed on the Crane, and he was the first to ask questions. For a time, everyone's eyes turned in unison, and there was a hint of urgency on their faces. Warring States, don't pretend to be confused. I have the same idea as you, and call Laxus into the Navy headquarters as soon as possible. Crane glanced at Warring States and said mercilessly. Compared with the pirates, the combat power of our younger generation is completely irrelevant. The rise of Laxus, no matter what. It hit the beast's Kaido, and it can also strengthen the reputation of our Navy, and at the same time, relying on his training methods, it may be possible to add a group of powerful forces to the Navy headquarters in a short period of time. He will be the key to turning things around for our Navy. Voice fell, and Akainu's face became a little livid. As a dignified naval admiral, in this major event, not only was he not relied upon. Instead, the Navy's hopes are placed on a newcomer. Moreover, this newcomer is still embarrassed by him, which is undoubtedly slapping his old face in public. Watching Crane speak his heart out, Sengoku's expression softened slightly. Looking around the arena, seeing Lien holding his stomach and keeping silent, Sengoku said again, I think Crane's proposal is very good. However, I hope that if you have any opinions, you can put them forward. This statement can be raised as long as the current situation of the Navy headquarters has changed. These words fell, Sengoku looked around the field again. However, wherever their eyes passed, everyone nodded in agreement, obviously not daring to express their position at this juncture. Regardless of, let's fight. The marshal of the country was worried about it, but he was still hated by the General Akainu. It's not what they want to see. What's the matter? No one has an opinion. Warring States frowned and said, if there is no opinion, then I will send the search order to the various branches of the Navy, and let Laxus contact us as soon as possible. HMPH, Marshal of the Warring States period, now that the decision has been made, I would also like to see how Laxus can turn the situation around in our naval headquarters. Akainu suddenly spoke up. However, I won't back down on the bet I made a month and a half ago. If he can't even pass my test, I believe that everyone here will not put hope on him, so as not to let the Navy the headquarters has made another appearance. Speaking of this, Akainu stood up suddenly and said, Marshal of the Warring States, if there is nothing else, I will go back first. During this period of time, there seems to be traces of fugitives from the advanced city prison in the Mosha Sea area. I want to go there myself. Those words, Akainu suddenly turned and left. Looking at this scene, the admirals present, their expressions changed slightly, and they could only look at the Warring States period. It can be said that Akainu's remarks seem to be violent. However, in reality, there is nothing wrong with it. If Laxus even made a bet a month and a half ago, there is no way to win. In the Navy headquarters, trust a new person so they can do business. That's harder than getting to the sky. Feeling the change in the atmosphere in the conference room, the Warring States said with a solemn expression, it seems that your meaning is similar to that of Akainu. However, don't worry, when the bet contract was signed that day, I didn't think about revising it. This is also a test for Laxus. What's more, when the beasts Kaido chased and killed Laxus, there are probably not many people present. I believe that Laxus can fight against Kaido, but isn't the final result equally impressive? Having said that, Warring States glanced at the newspaper in his hand and said, next, I hope everyone can work together to get Laxus back, and don't let our navy continue to lose face. Along with this, the news of the Isle of Phi and the Holy Land Mary Joa spread. The whole sea shook violently. Facing the sudden rise of Escanor, the sin of arrogance, and the big skeleton demon Uchiha Ryayu, the relationship is unclear. Everyone couldn't help but keep an eye on it. Chapter 720, Saitama of One Punch Man. After all, the fierce name of the Rocks Pirates represents an era. There really are other powerful forces behind Escanor and the skeleton demon. As long as it is people who are mixed in this sea, there is absolutely no way to stay out of it. New world, in an unknown sea. A single-masted pirate ship, moving with the wind on the sea. On the bow deck, 3 figures gathered here, their eyes swiped, and they landed on the other, like an iron tower. Yu has brought Nico Robin and Cavendish together since he left Marijoa, the holy land of the Red Earth continent. Faced with the appearance of Nico Robin, Cavendish and Frankie only realized afterward what crazy things Long Yu had done. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, the fidelity of Escanor, the sin of arrogance, has reached 70%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, you have obtained 500 points of unrest in the world. The current unrest point is 515, and the 3rd stage is unlocked, and you still owe 485 points of unrest. Ding dang, congratulations to the host, the 3rd character template has successfully reached 70% fidelity, and the 4th character template has the opportunity to be drawn, whether it is immediately. Start drawing. A series of ethereal prompting sounds from the system echoed in Long Yu's mind. 500 world turbulence points that skyrocketed in an instant. Long Yu looked surprised at the same time. I didn't expect that there would be a 4th chance to draw a character template. According to Long Yu's calculations, if this time, using the new character template, on this sea, do something else that will shock the sea. Get 10,000 points of world unrest. Perhaps, there is an opportunity to lift the world's blockade on the Eye of Reincarnation. Only by freeing the Samsara Eye, Long Yu's strength in Naruto world is enough to restore 70%. At that time, let alone the 4 emperors, I am afraid that the 5 old stars and Yimu will also be able to fight with them 1 or 2 times. Once this time is reached, with the space-jumping ability of Samsara Eye, perhaps Long Yu can return to Naruto world to take a look. Thinking of the many familiar faces in the past, Long Yu secretly sighed. As soon as the thought in his mind moved, he directly issued a new order. Immediately. Extract the 4th character template. Ding dong, please wait a moment, the system is drawing templates. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, the 4th person template extraction was successful. Congratulations to the host for getting the Bald Cape Man Saitama from the world of One Punch Man. Saitama of Saitama One Punch Man. Long Yu was stunned, his face was full of disbelief. He had thought that this time it was about unlocking the Samsara Eye, and the system might make him a stumbling block. Let him get some cold dimensional weak character templates, it is difficult to make up enough world turmoil value. Never occurred to me that the random selection of the system this time turned out to be the legendary coercion, from Saitama, known as the Bald Cape Man in One Punch Man. In the original world, Saitama's appearance, as well as the way of doing things, make people feel unwilling to compliment. However, Long Yu knew very well. The most powerful being in One Punch Man. If Long Yu can gain Saitama's strength by improving the fidelity of the character template. Once the fidelity reaches 60%, or even 70%, I am afraid that the strength is enough to match the strength of Long Yu after unlocking the Samsara Eye. The fidelity of the characters is 100%. Saitama's strength, I am afraid, can hit a big ending with one punch. Feeling the information entered into his mind by the system, Long Yu quickly opened Saitama's attribute panel. Character template. One Punch Man Saitama Dao Strength. 10 Combat Skills. Ordinary Fist, Super Speed. Fidelity. 20%. Looking at the simple and clear character template, Long Yu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose. Start is 100 points. According to the setting of One Piece world, as long as one's own strength exceeds 500 points, he can be called a Superman. Now Saitama's character template. When the fidelity is 20%, the fidelity will reach 100 points. This horse is at the same level and is invincible. How many superhumans can he compare to Rob Lucci, who was destroyed by him not long ago? Under normal circumstances, his Dao strength is only 400 points. With the blessing of fruit ability, it may be infinitely close to 100. However, compared with the 20% realistic Saitama, I am afraid there is still a certain degree of gap. If I meet Rob Lucci now, Long Yu really wants to try one or two. With the current Saitama template alone, can one punch Rob Lucci? Captain Escanor, here we are. Nico Robin looked at the island that appeared in front of her and couldn't help but said. Long Yu withdrew from the consciousness space, squinted slightly, looked at this island in the new world, and said, okay, you can send it here. This is the life card to go to the Glossiaki. It only takes half a day to arrive here. Having said this, Long Yu reached out and rubbed Robin's head lightly, and said, wherever you go, no one will dare to trouble you, and you can sleep peacefully.